Get along just fine here on our own.
Hi everyone, it's Ash here and welcome back to my channel. So we are already in February and that means we are finally past this Christmas, New Year and back to school period. I know that sounds so Scroogey of me, but even though those periods are so fun and so exciting, they can be very stressful and very expensive as well. So today's video is going to be a few tips on how to recoup costs after those busy spending times that you have throughout the year without having to resort to things like online surveys, which, you know, when you add up the value for time invested, it's just really not worth it in the end. Or doing things that are entirely new career paths. Like I've seen a lot of YouTubers do videos like this and suggest things like becoming an Uber driver or starting a blog, which are all great ways to make money, but they also take a lot of time. So today's video is just going to be about getting a bit of that money back in your pocket after those crazy spending periods. Okay, so number one tip is pretty obvious, that is selling online. So a fun tip that I learned the other day is that the average Australian actually has $5,400 worth of unused items in their house that other people might want to purchase. So for me, that would be fairly much all that I spent over Christmas in between presents and traveling and buying extra food and things like that. So that would be a great way to get a bit of that money back in my pocket. So I've always been a big user of Gumtree, which is just one of those online community marketplaces where you can buy and sell locally. And I have actually tried a few other platforms throughout the years, but I've just found that the process of, you know, uploading and listing is either too finicky or the people that you encounter stuff you around too much, and I don't think anybody has time to deal with stuff arounds, and that's something that I haven't found so much on Gumtree before, so I always go back to using that platform. And considering we are getting so close to moving into our new house, I really do need to decide what I'm going to keep and what I'm going to throw out. So I really need to do a big cleanup, and to be honest, even if you're not moving house, I think it's always nice to do a big spring clean at the beginning of the year. That way you're just getting off to a fresh start and everything in your house is sort of in its place and you've gotten rid of anything that's sort of creating clutter and mess in your life. So one of those clutter slash mess items that I've had in my house for about a year now are these 3 Yum Box lunch boxes. Now 2 of them are actually used. Honey and Archie have used these before, and while they're still in great condition, they still serve the function that they were built for, which is storing food and being completely leak proof. There are a few slight scratches across the tops just from use, so I am going to sell them at a lower price. So they usually do sell for about $40 in stores. I'm going to list them for about $15. They really are just, you know, an extra lunchbox, or if someone can't afford to buy the brand new one, these ones are in still pretty great nick, and the buyer can always decorate the tops with stickers or do things to make them look a little more new again. And then I also have this third one, which is still brand new in its packaging. I bought this one for Louis and then I ended up changing my mind and buying him a different color. So I've had this one for a whole year and haven't really done anything with it. So I have noticed that while these lunch boxes do tend to sell out in stores, meaning that people sell them for either the retail price, which is around $40 or more online, and they do sell for that amount, I'm not really interested in doing that. I just want to sell these things off quickly. So I'm going to list it at a more competitive price. I'm going to list it at $30 just to get it sold quickly. The second item that I have to sell is my bugaboo donkey. As much as I love this pram, my kids are getting older and I really don't need a double pram anymore. And to be honest, I probably haven't used it in about a year because the kids, you know, walk everywhere themselves. So I'm going to sell this one off to someone who needs it way more than I do. This pram I think originally cost me about $2,000. So looking back, it probably wasn't the most economic purchase on my part, but I really wanted to try it and it did serve a really great purpose over the years, but I'm definitely not going to get that much for it. When I go and have a look online at some of the other ones that are selling at the moment, they're selling for about the $1,000 mark, which I probably could get. However, it has got some signs of wear and tear. For example, at the moment there are a few scuffs on the chassis and the fabric is a little bit dirty. They're things that I can clean up myself fairly easy just by giving it a good wipe down and taking the time to wash the fabric, which just makes them look a little bit better in the pictures and might give them a better chance of being sold. However, there are a few other things that are wrong with it that I really want to make the buyers aware of, and that is that there are a few bits taken out of the foam on the handles, which is a fairly common problem with bugaboos. One of the other things is that one of the clips is broken broken on the hood. It still attaches, but it does have a crack in it. And the last thing is that the wheel, it has an inner tube that needs to be either replaced or repaired. And I haven't done that myself, but I'm going to try and list it as is and just let the buyer know by taking some really clear pictures and making it very clear in the description about what is wrong with it, just for the purpose of getting a quick sale really. So I'm going to list this for about $700, knowing that when you are listing the more expensive items, people do tend to try and haggle with you. So I do hope to get maybe $550 to $600 for it. But by listing it at that higher price, people are still having that opportunity to haggle with you a little bit. Now, if I'm finding after a week or so that it isn't selling, then it might even be worth fixing those things up myself. And then I could try listing it again as a basically as new pram. And as a result, I might even find that I get a higher price. And lastly, I also have our old washer and dryer in storage, which are a couple of years old, but they're still in perfect brand new condition. So while these retailed at $400 for the dryer and $800 for the washing machine, I probably only want half that, so about $200 and $400 respectively. But to allow for haggling, I'm gonna list those at $250 and $450. The only downside to this is that I don't have any real life pictures at the moment, so I'm gonna try using stock images. I've found in the past that people don't really like stock images. Personally, I tend to scroll past them because I feel like the seller might have something to hide by using stock images as opposed to real pictures. So I might not find that those sell straight away. It may be a matter of me needing to go over to the storage one afternoon this week and just taking some real snaps and uploading those, so the buyer has that confidence that what they're buying is exactly what they see in the picture. And as you can see, the listing process is fairly easy. The title is obviously going to be very simple. You want to make sure that you're taking a lot of pictures with good lighting, just so, like I said, the buyer can see exactly what they're getting, and you want to pay attention to taking pictures of any flaws the item might have. Most of the time when I've looked at an item that is listed as having a few flaws and you see the pictures of them, a lot of the time they're not actually as bad as what you think they might be. So that's always a good place to start with the pictures. And then the next tip I can give is to give a really good description. I have found before, when both buying and selling, that giving a really good description helps. When you see an item for sale that only has a short description, it kind of feels like the seller has something to hide. Whereas when you see an item with a really big paragraph description that really doesn't leave any questions to be asked, you're more likely to go ahead and buy it because you know, once again, exactly what you're buying. My next tip is to do up a really good budget, which is probably another fairly obvious tip, but for me, a new year means a new budget. And where I usually start with this is looking up my last 1 to 3 month in expenses through either a bank statement or my account activity online, and putting all of my expenses into categories. So this might be consumables, which for me is food, fuel, phones, internet, and entertainment. Then we have our loans, which could be things like a mortgage, or if you have a car loan or a personal loan, you can put that in there. Then we have our insurances. This is home, contents, car, life, health, income protection, all the insurances that you can put in there. Then of course we have our quarterlies, which is rates, water, electricity. We have another category called cars, which covers our licensing, registration, and services. And then we have a new one, which is called fees, where we have our school fees, dancing fees, sport fees, or instrument fees, or any kind of fees that we incur throughout the year. That goes into that category. And then obviously we have a spending and a savings category as well. And when I go and put all of those things into those categories, it's so daunting. You can really see where you spend too much money or where you're wasting a lot of money. For me, it is those impulse purchases. And so it can sort of help bring you back down to earth a little bit and be a little more conscious about what you're spending. Personally, I like to challenge myself because I'm that sad kind of person, and see what I can do throughout my everyday life to make things a little bit cheaper by shopping specials for groceries, switching off lights when you leave the room, hanging out clothes rather than using the dryer, or even doing things like skipping that morning coffee and making it instead, which could actually save you about $1,000 throughout the year, which is just, you know, it's a lot of money. And I'm not saying that you have to give up on all of those extra little things, those things that you love to do for yourself, like buying your morning coffee. But even just by doing that budget, you're creating a consciousness on what you're spending, and it can be a way to save a lot of money and create some really great habits as well. And as an extension of that, my third tip is buying online. Now, this is obviously not a way to get a little bit more money back in your pocket, because you'd have to be taking money out of your pocket, but it is a great way to reduce the costs that you have throughout the year. Now, obviously, it's really nice to go into a shop and buy something that's brand new, but if you take the time beforehand to have a little look around online and see what's out there, you can save yourself a pretty penny. And being open to buying secondhand does not always mean that the items you're buying are going to be damaged or show signs of wear. A lot of the time, people like to list items that they've gotten for like a Christmas or a birthday, particularly this time of year, that they don't necessarily need, or when they need that little bit of cash instead. So often you'll find things that are brand new still in their packaging for a fraction of the cost. At the moment, I'm in need of some more sofas for the house because the house is turning out to be quite a bit bigger than what we thought, and so I've decided that I'm going to need some new sofas. The ones that I love are the IKEA soda room couches. Now, these ones can be quite expensive when you're buying them new, but if you go and have a look online, there are a lot of people who have bought them and they don't fit their space or don't suit their needs and they just want to sell them off. So I'm going online and searching ones specifically that are from a smoke and pet-free home, because for me, it doesn't really matter if they have a few signs of wear. I'm changing the covers on them anyway, but what matters to me is if they have like odors to them. So that's another reason why it's sort of important to go and see the items that you're buying in person. I always like to take someone with me or meet in a public space just for safety purposes, but it also helps you make sure that what you're getting is exactly what was pictured online and exactly what you thought you were buying. And by buying these couches online secondhand, as opposed to buying them brand new in store, I could potentially save myself hundreds or even thousands of dollars, which goes a long way in anybody's home, let alone someone who is in the process of building and moving into a new house. And what's more is that it's actually a much more sustainable way to buy. By buying secondhand, not only are you reducing that supply and demand, but you're also reducing waste, which makes a positive impact on the environment. So that wraps up my 3 ways to recoup or save on costs after expensive times like Christmas or birthdays throughout the year. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any of your own tips, I would love for you guys to share them in the description box below. You guys know I live for budgeting tips, and I know that a lot of you guys who watch these videos obviously live for them too. So remember that sharing is caring, and if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up so I know you liked it. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new to this channel and you want to see more videos like this one. And other than that, I'll see you guys on next time.